Hello everyone, my name's Oliver G. This is the Earful Tower podcast. Welcome for a little escape from whatever you're doing for, 40 minutes in the city of Paris with me. And today's episode, you're really going to feel like you're here. I'll explain why in a second. But if you're new around here, this is a podcast where I meet characters that make the City of Lights shine. Today, no exception, you're going to meet Casey Laulala, which is a Samoan name. In case you hadn't picked that from the name, I don't know, maybe you're an expert on names. Laulala from Samoa. And he runs a restaurant called Itakoa in Paris. You can find it on 185 Rue Saint-Denis, the second arrondissement. And he's got a really interesting backstory, this guy. As I wrote in the title, rugby to restaurants. This guy played rugby in New Zealand and then in France. He was in the All Blacks, which, if you don't know much about the sport of rugby, as I say in the episode, it's being in the All Blacks is like this is mega status, you know. It's kind of like being an NBA All-Star basketball player in America, for example. Anyway, he came over to Paris to play rugby, then to coach, and now he's in the restaurant industry. So, just to set the scene before we get into it, we are sitting on the terrace out the front of his restaurant, and it was really interesting. The street itself, Rue Saint-Denis, it feels like the whole street is under construction. Like, while we're sitting there were so many vans going past. You'll hear drilling sometimes. You'll hear people unloading things from the van. And sometimes I took it out, but I also left some of those extra sounds in. So you'll feel like you're being part of the changing face of Paris, sitting there with me and Casey. Anyway, no further ado, I think. Let's get into it. Here's the episode. I'll be back at the end after a stern warning from some regular listeners who said, why aren't you doing the chat at the end and reading emails and talking about the news? I will be back at the end of this episode to talk to you a little bit about everything that's going on, including a really fun book tour to Omaha that I've just done. That was extremely good fun, the biggest Zoom chat yet, and a great success. I'll talk about that at the end of the show. Here is Casey Laulala talking about rugby, talking about Paris, talking about restaurants. I hope you enjoy it. Let's do it.
When they've turned it over, the Barbarians, Mignoni skips his fly half and goes to Laulala. Now he's got pace on a step over the halfway line. Still going Laulala. Bit of space opening up.
Casey, how you doing?
Good, thanks.
You seem nervous then.
A little bit, tiny bit. I'm more nervous about these things than getting ready to play a game of rugby.
That's so funny because it strikes me that playing a game of rugby looks like a pretty crazy thing to do.
I guess you know what you're going to get into.
Right.
And you know you're going to get hurt at some point. So in that way, at some point, you're just going to have to flow with it. No, it's exciting.
There's a lot less hurting in my podcast episodes, I think. So we should both be all right. But
No, fine by me. I think these things, as we go on, I get to calm my nerves down.
Yeah. This will be cool. And we're sitting, just for everyone at home, we're sitting on Rue Saint-Denis, which I think we should start talking about that because we're sitting right out on the terrace of your spot, your new spot. When did you open it?
So it's been 2 years now.
Right,
and,
okay.
When we came here, I had no idea how influential this spot was.
Yeah.
Obviously,
Well, let's talk about it. So 2 years ago, this street... Okay, let's start 6 years ago when you moved to Paris. And 5 years ago, I moved here pretty much just off this street. And this street was sex shops, a bit seedy, maybe, and kind of pretty average bars.
Yeah, so what I hear from the locals here is that at nighttime here, you don't come here at nighttime because obviously the prostitution and the drugs, especially the drugs. So,
sure.
So 10 years ago, it's a no spot to come to. But then 2 years ago, it was okay. I think most of that's been pushed up more to the north, and so it just left us here with few sex shops and now a lot of cool places. That will also bring good crowd to this area. Which
you
is
said there's only 2 sex shops left. Is that right?
Yeah, well, I didn't count them, but just by passing them.
I think when I moved here and used to walk home just like 100 meters from where we're sitting, there was always a strip. I think it was a stripper out the front, beckoning people in.
Yeah, so there's there's two. Yeah, they still do that.
Yeah.
But I think slowly they get the point that there's a lot more interesting things than just going to sex shops. So the world has changed in the last 5 years.
This guy must know it. This guy must know we're making a podcast.
I mean, you can see everything here in Rusande.
Yeah, including the guy with the broken van behind you. But is today a special day that all the vans are here? Is today like...
So in the morning, apparently the Little Marie can only let the vans come in here and do their work. Because by lunchtime, they have to get them out because obviously the bars and the restaurants need to be open and use their terrace.
Right.
So that's why when every morning you come here and there's work, that's because they only have that time period to park up on the street.
Right. So speaking of the street, I see that you've got the pallets down there. Is this? Can you talk me through that? Because I think a lot of people are wondering what's going on.
So these pallets is purely just to stop the vans from parking in front because even if you put plants a little bit off, they will always park there. So that's the main reason. And obviously, just to have our clients can have some privacy because obviously the road is quite, when it gets busy, it gets really, really messy.
So it's not like you don't have the right to have that space. If a car parks there, it's their space. Is that basically it?
Well, they can't park there, but they just don't care.
Okay, but this is just during the pandemic or whatever.
Yeah, and we've also just added onto our terrace just to have some better character.
So what does it usually look like?
It usually when I just added some plants, and then obviously now that we put that, we thought I'll put some pallet down to stop people from parking there.
Right, but we can't sit there or anything yet.
No, so no, but because it used to be really nothing happening in front, so I thought add a bit of life. It's always nice to eat food when it's greenery around. So
sure, true. Just like back in Samoa. Or so how long did you live in Samoa?
I grew up in Samoa.
But how long were you there?
Well, I was 15 when I moved to New Zealand,
okay,
so all my childhood was in Samoa. My parents still back in Samoa.
Okay.
Samoa is obviously it's a beautiful island. We like to chill out and it's just so much greenery and it's just beautiful.
Do they do that thing in Samoa like in Fiji and stuff, that Fiji time or whatever, where everything's just a little bit more chilled out?
I think Fiji time is also like the Pacific time,
like nothing is zone,
it's just like nothing is in a rush.
Yeah, right.
You literally have to be on their backs to get things done. Otherwise, it's just they're not in a rush of doing anything. But why should they?
Yeah, true.
It's in a beautiful island. The breeze is beautiful breeze, and they chill out.
Well, there's something amiss here because for such a chilled out nation and a chilled out dude like yourself, you seem to be doing a lot of stuff.
I think it's playing rugby. You get to play at a level, and you always want to achieve things. And obviously, I knew that rugby will finish at some point, and I didn't want to finish doing something.
Merci beaucoup. Passez une bonne journée.
And I didn't want to stop there. I wanted to keep going, and because after rugby you finish at around about 35, 36, and you still got another 30 years to live.
Yeah, sure.
And
at least, right?
At least for sure. And I just want to do something, keep going, and create something to be proud of, and also leave a legacy for the family.
Sure. Okay, so we got a whole. I said to you before I pressed record that there's a lot I want to talk to you. I'm going to struggle to get through it all, but I think maybe the best way is to do it like a linear story, starting in Samoa and ending up with this restaurant and why we're sitting here. I think that'll be a cool way to do it.
Okay. Well, when I was 15, I moved to New Zealand, just not for rugby. I went to do my schooling over there.
Is that normal for Samoans?
No, really. But now you have scholarships. There are a lot of people going over. So I think it's normal nowadays.
Did you go to Auckland then?
I went to Auckland, went to a boarding school, Wesley College. That's where Jonah Lomu went to as well. There's a few All Blacks that came through there.
Right.
And then I finished school, played 2 years in counties. And then I went down to Canterbury, which is end up in that's the Crusaders.
Yeah.
Played 8 years in the Crusaders. Fortunately enough to be part of a really successful team in the Crusaders.
Right.
We won 3 titles in my time there, so that was an amazing time.
You know what I think we should do? I think there will be a lot of Americans listening who maybe don't know so much about rugby.
Yeah.
Let's for the sake of those people, compare it to an American sport at what level that you were playing at this.
Well, I wouldn't say the NFL, but like that's our NFL. That's the equivalent of the level was, and then had the opportunity to play for the All Blacks, which was still a very proud moment for me.
You're being very humble. To play for the All Blacks in New Zealand is like that's like being an all-star in the NBA in America, right?
Yeah, pretty much. Yeah, it's.
Were you like a hero in New Zealand?
No, I wouldn't go as far as saying that.
Will people stop you in the streets?
Yeah, but a little bit. But this. It was a great time to be part of.
Because it's like a religion in New Zealand.
It is a religion.
Like, rugby is huge.
Especially the All Blacks.
Yeah, exactly. Like show-stopping. It's like.
Yeah, well, it's part of their lifestyle over there. Sorry about the noise.
That's amazing. Is he going to keep going? Nah, he's not going to keep going.
Yeah, it's just a religion over there, and so privileged to be part of the All Blacks. Obviously.
Is that in terms of your career? Is that like the pinnacle, like the bit that you look back on and just be like, yeah, man, I did it?
Yeah, it definitely is, because I went to New Zealand not even for rugby. I asked the old man, I started playing rugby. I've been selected to this regional side. He said, oh no, you're coming back to Samoa.
Really?
Yeah.
What did you say?
Well, I said, I had no say. I had to go back and work, you know what I mean? And,
wow.
And then as I get older to like 7th form, when I was 17, I started making big original teams, and he said, oh no, we're still coming back home. Not until I was 19 when I made the New Zealand under-19 team. He said, oh, okay, well, maybe you can stay there. And
wow. It makes you think, like, around the whole world, how many people's sporting career or whatever career is taken away from them by things like that, you know?
Yeah. But I was fortunate enough, but it never stopped me from keep chasing the dream.
Yeah.
Because at some point, my dad is only focusing on my schooling and trying to get the best out of me.
Yeah.
Him not knowing that I've reached a level of playing that I could possibly make a career out of it.
It's a bit like I heard Charles Barkley in America tells kids that he meets kids like he says, don't try and be a pro. I'm not even going to talk about it. Go to school. You know, he said you got a better chance of being a doctor than an NBA star or whatever.
Well, especially in America, obviously.
What would you say to kids on that kind of thing? Do you say the same thing?
Well, in New Zealand, you can say do both.
Yeah, right.
Because you're talking about 4 million people. You're talking about 300 million people over there.
True. You're statistically more likely to be in the All Blacks than you are to be in the NBA in America.
Well, yeah, yes and no as well, because to reach that level is very, very hard as well, because in the NFL you're so your positional play is only catered for that position, whereas in rugby you got to be an offensive player and a defensive player, and you have to do all that under fatigue.
Yeah, right.
So there's a lot of components that that makes it really, really complicated. And I think over 100 years of the All Blacks, there's only been over 1,200 All Blacks.
Wow, that's pretty select company. That's pretty cool.
So now you know that it's a very selective.
What about somewhere along the line you ended up coming to France, and that seems to be like not a common thing, but it's something that happens in rugby for a lot of New Zealanders and maybe Samoans as well, and Australians. What's the draw?
Well, there's only 2 rugby teams in Paris, and obviously I had the privilege of them asking me if I could come and play for Racing 92 here in Paris. And obviously spoke to my wife, and I said, well, when are we ever going to live in Paris? Right. Let's go and live in Paris.
And then, so this is amazing. This street, there's so much going. It's kind of funny that so much is going on, because we were talking before we started, this street in a couple of years will be almost unrecognizable. And you're in the middle of it all.
Yeah, well, it's been 2 years of non-stop work around here. And definitely what we're saying is like, that's why we're talking about the bands in the morning. Every morning. For 2 years since we've been here, this work.
What are they doing though? They're just
they're just building new bars, renovating new places, and that's been ongoing for the last 2 years. So you're right, it's definitely going to change in the 2 years.
People who listen to this podcast, this episode in like 5 years, because people go back and listen to the old ones, they will be like, oh my god, I can hear it changing. I could hear. That explains why it looks so new. But anyway, so back to your story. So you come to Paris, and this is 6 years ago.
Yeah.
But is there like a big rugby scene in France compared to other European nations or something? Is that why?
Yeah, so Paris is a real football city, and the south of France is where all the rugby city.
When you say football, let's be real clear, because every country talks
soccer.
Yeah, soccer.
Well, we used to say soccer, but since we've been here for that long, I say football now.
Yeah, so in England, and it's just in England they call soccer football, right?
I have no idea.
Yeah,
I just know in Europe, I just say football.
Right, okay. So Paris is big for soccer.
Yeah, so the north of France is big in soccer.
Yeah.
And so most of the south of France are rugby towns. So that's how it works here in France.
Yeah,
and so having the chance to come here in Paris 6 years ago, I can go into the start when we first got here. There were hardly any coffee shops.
Oh yeah, why not? Let's get into it. 6 years ago, we don't have to talk about other coffee shops when we're sitting in your own place here.
Yeah.
But 6 years ago, it was dire straits, right? Like,
yeah, it was, very surprising on how we're talking about the third generation of coffee now.
Yeah.
Because if we talk coffee, they know more about us the Italian way. That's the kind of first generation. They say, but we're talking more of the third generation, which is obviously the type of coffee shops we have in Australia and New Zealand. And there weren't many here. Met some friends at Le Peloton, Paul and those guys, the Platoon people.
they're friends of the show.
They're friends, guys. Yeah. Hey, shout out to those boys.
They're not listening. Don't worry about that. They're just friends. So you were coming in, exploring the coffee scene, and somewhere a seed was planted that you wanted to have a place, or you just coming in here to.
No, it literally planted a seed after being here 2 years, and you see the scarcity of that type of restaurant, cafes here in Paris. And look where we are now after 6 years later. There's just so many places like popping up. Obviously we're in a restaurant now, but it started off being a cafe first. But because the chef was a really talented chef, and I wasn't here all the time, so we kind of like changed the concept to more of it is a restaurant now.
Right. And so you opened as a cafe and turned it into a restaurant.
Yeah.
Cool.
Because we wanted to do something that was more him, and here we are now. It's a restaurant, and it's picking up now after the confinement, which
that must have been tough. Huh?
Yeah, which is really positive.
Yeah. But is that common for people in sports to get into like the restaurant industry?
Not really. I think because it's really, really tough.
Yeah.
It's one of those things, and I find it myself now that I'm full time here at the restaurant.
Yeah.
It's not easy, and also you gotta have the right people. I mean, just like anything.
Sure.
Restaurants are not really common for rugby players that I know of. But being here, I wanted to do something really, start something in Paris and see where it takes me.
I got an email from someone the other day, Lida, I believe it was, and she said, Oliver, why don't you do some episodes about people starting up businesses in Paris? And I think it could be quite an interesting sort of avenue to go and talk to that. But in a sort of broader, or in a nutshell, the act of getting a cafe/restaurant turning into a restaurant and getting it in the center of Paris like this, is that something that's like super difficult to do, or did you find, are there shortcuts or?
No, it's very, very difficult. Obviously through rugby there's a platform straight away for me, and then I started meeting a lot of people, and you create your network and you just build a network, and then because I'm a rugby player, I won't pretend I'm a restaurateur. Well, eventually I will become like that, but I also know what I'm good at and I'm not good at. And having the right people and knowing the right people is very, very important, especially here in France, in Paris, because it's very hard for the French people to open a restaurant, let alone for us foreigners who, I mean, you know, the language is very, very difficult. We can speak normally everyday language. When I sit in a bank's meeting with the accountants and the lawyers, it's a whole different level of French we're talking about here. So it's, and also that was the challenge for me, and I kind of love that. Love that challenge. I'm not saying it's not possible. But you have to be smart on how you go about it.
And were you kind of doing all of it by yourself, or did you bring in French people to help you, or?
Yeah, well, I asked around, because now I've created a network of people. Yeah. So it's also, the more information you have about something, the better decision you're gonna make after. You still have to make a lot of mistakes on the way, but that's just part of it. But you can minimize that by knowing the right people.
Yeah. Do you think it would be kind of impossible, for example, I'm thinking about the woman who wrote in this email, Lida, an American woman from Houston. If she wanted to open a place like this with presumably not much of a network at all here, and presumably not much French, is she in trouble, do you think?
No, but then, well, this is the whole point of our show here. She could come over here and then we meet up with her if that's what she wants to do. Then all I have to do is put her in the right people that I'm using and I trust. And that takes time but again, if you want to do something like this, you have to really go full speed, you can't be, do it as a hobby or anything like that.
It's kind of like rugby, you got to run with that ball.
Yeah.
See, what do you call it in basketball? It's a fast break when you get ahead of everybody else.
Well, it's a when you're in transition, counter-attack.
Counter-attack.
Yeah.
Is that what it's called?
Yeah, when you turn over the ball and you free space, and you got to maximize those opportunities.
Just like in restaurants.
Well, it is.
I think that's the French say that in basketball, is it contre-attack?
Yeah, it's the same thing.
Yeah.
So when you're in transition and you get turnover, it's the best time to attack.
Yeah.
So
did you have moments opening the restaurant where you were like, what have I got myself into?
I still do.
Yeah.
That's the funny thing, I still do.
Yeah.
But again, I use my experience from rugby to this, because in rugby you learn so much about managing yourself, managing a team of, and also I've been a coach for the last 2 years, so I've also seen that side from a coaching perspective on how to manage 40 professional players with all those egos. And literally, I've been in working full-time here for a month, and I literally used that experience in my small team, which is only 3 or 4 of us here. And I've seen the changes, but no doubt, I'm like, what am I doing?
Yeah, wow. But it sounds like it's going all right, because you're going to open a new spot around the corner pretty much?
Yeah, so in 3 weeks' time, partner up with a co-working space here in Paris. It's called We Art from Paris.
Okay.
They're opening up a co-working space next to the Pompidou.
Okay, cool.
And so they've asked me to put a little cafe in there. So
Nice.
I was like, I'm very happy to do that for you guys. And so really looking forward to that. And it's not far from here.
Yeah.
It's in Bobo.
That sounds like you're taking over the whole city.
Well,
I see the spread.
yeah, well, that's the mindset.
Yeah.
Having a good mindset is always a good start to going places. And no doubt there's a lot of work to be done.
Yeah.
Me, myself, a lot of learning to be done, especially in French.
It's kind of cool because you've just totally transitioned your career. Like it's a whole different thing, isn't it?
It's completely different. You can't even see But the only thing that I see the relation between the two is all comes down to the teamwork. If you have a good team, you get the right people on the bus. Not only on the bus, the right people on the right seats. It changes everything that you do, because as a coach, you can't manage 40 players, but what you can manage is your culture that you have in the team. So that when you have a good culture in the team, people will come and be part of something that's bigger than themselves, not just a job.
Yeah. That's cool. That's cool. What about I'll just let this truck go past.
There you go. More scaffolding.
It's incredible.
Yeah.
It's like watching a city be built.
Yeah, it's unbelievable.
Which is weird because this area around here, this is very, very old Paris. This street is one of the axes, the north to south axes.
Exactly.
When I lived down on Rue Greneta, that Monoprix just over on the corner, they found bones. Did you read about this?
No.
So it's 5 years ago.
I just see it's like a little the top, and I just knew that was so old because of the.
I think it's the most beautiful. So the Monoprix is the local supermarket, and it's just around the corner, and it's got this beautiful. I don't know how to describe it. Neither of us are the experts on this.
It's like a spire, but not really a spire.
Yeah. It's the most beautiful supermarket maybe in the world. I guess the house is on top of it. But when I was living here, all this. They put tape everywhere, and what happens is they'd found a mass grave underneath from hundreds and hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of years ago. There used to be a hospital on that exact spot, and like a proper mass, like from a plague or something, just skeletons. And I was like, whoa! Compare that, like I said to you before, the oldest thing in Perth, where I'm from, was the lady next door. So this place.
I was telling you about the gate at my old house.
Yeah, that's right. Tell that story.
Yeah, well, we obviously moved in one of the suburbs, just literally outside of Paris, and there's an iron gate just at the top of where we live, and we found out that the iron gate is older than New Zealand. So, and we just couldn't believe that, and that's our favorite story that we tell everyone that comes to visit stay at our place.
Yeah, that's cool. That's so cool. What about one thing I want to talk about? When we first met, which was a while back now, I remember talking to you about your injuries. Do you remember this? You probably talk about it a lot.
Well, it's an everyday conversation.
Well, if it's an everyday conversation, it's a good conversation. So I'm looking at Casey right in front of me now. He just held out his forearms, and there's big scars on them running sort of vertically, I suppose.
Yeah, it's just... Well, obviously when you play rugby, it's no protection at all. And so, all these injuries are just purely from... accidental hitting the guys in their head, and obviously I came up sick and I broke the radius of my forearm.
I think you're talking it down a bit. I think what happened is you broke your both arms in half by hitting people on the head.
Literally, yeah. So one was a compound fracture, and obviously I broke the other one twice. So it's nothing to brag about it.
I don't know. I'm not trying to get you to brag, but I just think it's really fascinating. That's from you sweeping in to tackle someone, and you hit him with halfway down your arm, and it snapped.
Exactly. So
you must be going so hard to do that, if you think about it.
Well, yeah, it's one of those games. In soccer, in soccer, when you get angry, you can't hit them.
Yeah.
When in rugby, when you get angry, you don't throw punches because you know you're gonna hit them hard.
Yeah.
And so sometimes your emotion will get the best of you, and obviously. You do that and you come up second best. So this is just a hit straight into the forearm.
But did you know that you snapped it?
Oh yeah.
I mean, because remember, people are listening. The scar is that's like 20 centimeters.
Yeah.
Like what is that? 6-7 inches or something.
Yeah. So I knew it was broken because even the doctor and the physio that was standing on the sideline could hear the sound of them.
What?
Yeah.
They heard the snap.
Yeah. Well, it's just the radius is obviously the thicker bone in the forearm that snapped.
And did you talk to the dude afterwards who you hit in the head?
Well, he froze because he just looked at me, and we didn't say anything. He didn't say anything. He just looked at me, and I just could tell that something was wrong, and he knew that I was in trouble. So
he froze as in so you hit him like that.
Yeah.
What is this part called? Forearm?
That's the forearm. Yeah.
Forearm to the head, I assume. What's this part called? The forehead.
The forehead.
To the forehead. And then he was like, "Oh no, man!"
He just looked at me, going, "Oh, what was that sound?" But he knew that it was my arm.
Yeah.
And
not many people have that injury outside of rugby, I imagine.
No, I don't think so. No, unless it's a terrible accident.
Did it take a long time to heal?
3 months.
Yeah. Yikes.
And then back on the.
And you did it on the other arm too.
Yeah, so twice on the other arm.
Oh my gosh. Okay. But I guess it doesn't so much matter anymore in the restaurant industry.
No, now I I do the dishes now, so I help out in any way I can and learn the ropes through that.
Are you still in shape?
Oh, yeah, well, not as when I was playing. But
I watched some of your highlights this morning. You look pretty fast.
Oh, thanks for that.
Oh man, they were good highlights.
It was a good little pickup, It's been a while.
Oh really? No, those highlights are good. I'll link to them. I wonder if I can get some of the commentary from them to fade out this episode when we go into the next bit. But man, yeah, you were fast.
It was good.
How fast can you do the 100 meters?
I never ran 100 meters because we always tested our 40 meters because it's not often that you run 100 meters somewhere because just someone's trying to hurt you, tackle you. No one's gonna block for you, trying to make a little gap for you. You know.
Is that like when you get away the counter attack? Is that the best feeling in rugby?
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Well, because you got so much space. As you know, the guy at the back of the defensive team, the offensive team, he's up attacking, and so there's loads of space, and so and it's all about getting the ball to space.
Yeah.
And I'm the guy outside where the space is, and so as soon as turnover, come on, let's do the razzle dazzle, as they say.
And when you're doing the razzle dazzle and running, the crowd starts cheering. You're getting away from everybody. Are you just thinking, like, is it like freedom, I'm going to do it, or is it like, oh god, I hope no one catches me?
It's already, you're tired at the same time. You see, you don't get a break, so you're not thinking about that. You're just thinking about getting to the end zone on the other side.
Yeah.
And once you get there, it's a great feeling.
Yeah. So the great feeling begins when you get to the end.
We get to the end.
I wonder if it's the same in the restaurant industry. I suppose you'll find out.
The adrenaline we get here is when we have a good, like last night we had a great service to so many people, and everything is flowing well because you got systems in play, and that's where you get that buzz.
Yeah.
Because people are happy. You're putting beautiful plates in front of them with beautiful weather, and you're in Paris as well.
Yeah. Let's finish on this then. For people coming to Paris, they're thinking about going out for a meal in a restaurant. Why should they come here?
Well, first of all, we do something a little bit different. Obviously, you've seen the inside. We've done something really different. Strip it back because we love the characteristics of the old.
You're saying four, before we go to the chef, you're saying there were 4 walls that you, and when I say the thickness of 4 walls.
Yeah, so 10 centimeters on both sides. So we literally gained 20 centimeters of space.
Just by chipping away walls?
Just by cutting out all the walls that's been, each owner will come here or through 20, 30 years someone will put a new wall.
Why do they keep putting walls up? Is it because the old ones are damaged and they couldn't be bothered fixing them or something?
Yeah. Well, I guess so, because it is expensive demolishing things.
Sure.
And so we trying to do something different, strip it back, and show the appreciation what we have for these buildings. And then the food that we do is sort of Mediterranean with Brazilian touch, because the chef is Brazilian. And so we managed to win 2 years in a row with a Michelin bib.
So what does that mean?
So it's kind of like, because we can't get a star because obviously it's not formal enough to be a, but that means you get an appreciation of quality food.
Well, you need to be formal to get a Michelin star? Is that how it works?
Well, yeah. Well, obviously you can't give. That's my understanding.
Yeah, right.
Maybe I'm wrong.
I don't know anything.
All the restaurant people would say.
That's cool. So Michelin basically is giving the blessing on you guys.
Yeah, well, we're in the Michelin Guide for 2 years in a row.
Yeah, cool.
No, it's great.
That's amazing.
And obviously we have a little outside seating that you can enjoy.
And what would be the meal that you'd recommend that people get on their first visit here?
Well, at the moment we're doing a chicken sandwich that's obviously it's great. And these things take, they'll cook the chicken for 12 hours, even the lamb. We've got a lamb here. So there's a lot of technique going into the dishes that we do.
Right.
And that's why it looks simple, but obviously there's a lot of flavors and things in there. And it changes all the time because it's seasonal.
Amazing. Well, there you go. And what are the chances, the people listening now, of seeing you, Casey, when they walk into this place?
I'm here every day, so you'll see the Samoan smile every day.
Yeah. But there you go, guys. It's Casey. Oh, we have to talk about your last name as well, because I had a question about it. How do you pronounce it again?
It's Laulala.
Laulala, which kind of sounds a bit like oh la la in French.
Yes, exactly. And so it also becomes a joke when saying oh la la. You know, it's like through the years, there's been a lot of jokes.
So they put in the headlines?
Yeah. Oh la la, you know.
Well, it's been an absolute pleasure to have you on the show, and I wish you much success as you keep going forward.
Thank you, Oliver.
So there you have it again. That was Casey Laulala. Itakoa is the name of the restaurant. 2nd arrondissement, 185 Rue Saint-Denis. Check them out. I've got all the links to Instagram and everything, all the website. Go and follow, like, love, all that kind of stuff. And thank you to Casey for being a wonderful guest. Now, as promised, I got an email from one of the, I say, executive producers on Patreon, which is how this show exists. People who pay a small monthly pledge, rather like a magazine subscription, for bonus content. There's a higher tier there, and I call them my executive producers. And one of them emailed me and said, Oliver, it's been 3 weeks and you haven't hung around and chatted at the end. What's going on? Bring it back. They said it kind of nice, to be fair. But it got me thinking. I wanted to talk a little bit more to these executive producers, the people who are helping me brainstorm and make this show better. So I've been doing these Zoom chats with Patreon members at the higher tiers. If you want to get involved in that, if you want to chat, you want to send me your ideas, it's the perfect way to do it. I did like hour and a half chats with people all over the world. That was really fun. But yeah, I figured I'd be a man of my word and hang around at the end and talk. So things are going really great in Paris at the moment. We're in the 7th arrondissement still, Paris Perfect Apartments. They said you can stay in another one of the rental apartments that we've got on the condition that you write the ultimate guide to the 7th arrondissement for us. You see, this if you're new to this show, you probably got no idea what I'm talking about, but there's an apartment rental company called Paris Perfect. And about a month ago, they said, gosh, you look like you guys struggled in that confinement. Don't you want to come and stay in a luxury apartment? And we said, absolutely. So they gave us the keys, and in return, we talk about them here and there. And then when the month was up, they said, move down one level and write us a guide, and the keys are yours. And I said, I'm on my way downstairs. So that's where we are. We're still right across from the Eiffel Tower. If you follow on Instagram at the Eiffel Tower, you'll see me posting regular pictures of it. But we've been based here, and we're exploring the 7th. I'd say that I've walked on every street of the 7th arrondissement, and I'm looking forward to writing a guide with the best bars, restaurants, streets, doorways, everything. So expect that soon. But also the book sales have been great. Since we last spoke, I've brought in, it must have been 150 copies to Shakespeare & Company. They keep selling out. They message me and go, can you bring in another 50? And then it sells out. It's really incredible. And then even more of a amazing surprise for me was seeing pictures of the book Paris on Air on the bookshelves of the Bookworm, which is a bookstore in Omaha, Nebraska. The first US bookstore to stock my book. They took 60 copies and they sold out. We did this Zoom chat today where 100 people were watching in Omaha. I don't know why Omaha. Shout out to Jeff who moderated the event. It was great. Shout out to the Alliance Française of Omaha and to the Bookworm. Really fun chat. And I've been doing these Zooms all over the US. The good news with all these big sales means that the first print run is almost entirely gone. And I mean like there's 6 copies left or something. So I've ordered the second print run. Another 1,000 books are going to be printed in New Jersey kind of as we speak. So I'll probably shut up about the book for a while until those ones come in, I guess, 3 or 4 weeks. So I don't know, it's really exciting. The whole process has been really cool, and I'll talk about it properly in depth soon. It's all been a bit of a blur, to be honest. Otherwise, Paris is sort of getting back to normal. The lockdown, it actually feels normal around here. The only thing that feels different is that there's still no tourists, really, and the seats are quite spaced apart on the terraces. You know, all the terraces, as we talked about with Casey in the show, The terraces are spilling out onto the street. There are more chairs, more space between them. But otherwise, it feels really back to normal here, which I realize isn't the case around much of the world. So, we're being safe here, not taking anything for granted, and trying to enjoy a largely empty city. Anyway, I'm not going to read out an email this week. There's just been so many. There's been so many emails coming in, comments, Instagram, messages, that I can hardly keep up. But what I might do is I'll go on Goodreads, where people have been leaving reviews of the book. If you've enjoyed the book and you want to leave one, there's 105 reviews there. But why not leave a review there and I might read it out. So I'm just going to pick one. I'm literally doing it as we speak. Sort order to newest. Here we go. Susan says, I thoroughly enjoyed this book. She says she's visited many regions of France, as well as over 50 trips to Paris. I was able to revisit places and the feelings I hold for them while being amazingly engrossed in the author's observations. Oliver G is immensely readable. That was just the first one I read. Number 2, it's Barbara. She says, I love the podcast, and Paris on Air is equally as interesting and as cheerful as he is. It's like being in Paris without the jet lag. One of my favorite comments right there. Let's see, the third one. I'm just doing him in a row here. I loved this book, says Kathleen with 5-star rating. I could feel the wind in my hair and the sun on my back. I found myself grinning and laughing out loud from the sheer joy of the story. I'm a recent convert to the Eiffel Tower. Oh, welcome, Kathleen. And I look forward to fully immersing myself in the pleasure of all things Oliver G. I hope this is not your last book. And guess what, Kathleen? It's not. I've started working on the second one. I've got a really good title for it too, but I'm not going to say it. But look, that's it from me. If you guys like this, go get the book. Get one of those last 6 copies. If you really like it, sign up on Patreon at patreon.com/The Earful Tower for all the bonuses. I'm updating the guidebook once again. You get that in the audiobook on sign up plus a lot more. Otherwise, just tell your friends about this cool show. See if they listen too. I'll talk to you again soon. Merci beaucoup for listening and have a lovely week wherever you are.